pushing for a designation of Pakistan-based terror groups such as the TRF as global terrorist organizations. India will also send political delegations to countries like the US, France and others to build a consensus on the role of Pakistan. But meanwhile, the military message is absolutely clear. Do not mess with us or we will not stop. Operation Sindoor is not over. Pakistan is on probation. But let me break down how a multi-party delegation from India will be heading abroad to articulate India's position that will center its discussions on a five-pronged agenda. First, it will detail Pakistan's provocations that necessitated the operation from India's side. Second, underscore why Operation Sindoor was a crucial response to these threats, why that operation needed to be carried out in the first place. Third, convey the potential for future similar actions should there be further acts of terror against India. Next, emphasize the precise targeting of only terror hideouts when the original Operation Sindoor was carried out. And fifth, highlight then Pakistan's established role in fostering terrorism and its global repercussions. As per the government sources, the all-party delegation will travel to countries like US, UK, even South Africa, Qatar, UAE. These are some of the names we are hearing. Why do these countries matter? US, of course, the country remains the world's most powerful country with unmatched military, intelligence and diplomatic clout. It has the leverage to pressure Pakistan through aid and strategic influence. UK, as a permanent UNSC member and a leading voice in global human rights, it holds diplomatic sway in international fora. It can shape narratives on terrorism as well. South Africa, prominent African democracy, BRICS member, the nation holds regional influence and participates in global peacekeeping and non-aligned diplomacy. Qatar is another key country. It plays a mediating role in many global conflicts today, shapes public perception across the Muslim world. It can help counter extremist narratives and monitor financing channels linked to radical groups. The UAE, emerging as a key diplomatic player in the Middle East with growing clout. UAE closely aligns with India on counter-terrorism, has deported fugitives in the past and has publicly backed India's stance on Pakistan-sponsored terror. India is planning to send this all-party MP delegation that sources say will be led by Shashi Tharoor, who is a diplomat in the past. The Congress MP has even in this episode single-handedly been debunking Pakistan's lies on the global stage. Now, this isn't the first time India is banking on a bipartisan delegation. Similar trips have been made under previous governments, including in 1994, when then Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao sent leader of opposition Atal Bihari Vajpayee, former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Farooq Abdullah, Salman Khurshid and others to put forward India's case at the UNHRC in Geneva. Delegations were also sent abroad following the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh with dossiers on Pakistan's links to the attacks. Now that it is clear from the Defence Minister saying that Operation Sindoor is still ongoing, the war on terror is ongoing as far as military is concerned, India is now initiating another war which is equally important as we have realized in the aftermath of the Pahalgam attacks. Is it time for the world to sanction Pakistan? That big debate is coming up.
प्रतिनिधिमंडल जाएगा सांसदों का, उसमें आप शामिल होइए, हम जरूर इसमें शामिल होंगे और जो कुछ हमें करना है हम करेंगे।
Let's go across to our guest joining us. Gopal Agarwal is national spokesperson of the BJP. Pooja Tripathi from the Congress party joining us. Rajiv Dogra is former diplomat and consul general to Karachi. Professor Swaran Singh is professor for Center of International Politics at JNU. And David Vance is British author and political commentator, all joining us on the show. I do thank you for your time. Pooja, surely the Congress is going to be happy with what the government is planning to do today?
I think Shivani is good for democratic ethos, and the way post the Pahalgam attack, that Pakistan has unleashed a full-blown disinformation, campaign. There's a carefully coordinated, calculated campaign to not just mislead public, but to distort the global perception, being the IMF bailout, or countries making out a statement hyphenating India, Pakistan, where India is a vibrant democracy and Pakistan is just a rogue terror state. It's very, I think we welcome government's decision to send a multi-party democracy, because it doesn't, I am sorry if I am taking names, but we don't need a bear biceps to represent us on the global network. We have sane voices, we have intelligent minds that can throw Pakistan's whole narrative out of the box, out of the window, and they can shred him to pieces. And that's exactly what's needed. Glad that government has woken up to this demand, which was put forward by Kapil Sibal. I remember when this the whole military attack was going on, that he represented India in post-2008 attacks to the delegation to the Africa. And Modi ji should send, and that's a very welcome step.
So you say we have sane voices. Pooja, I didn't mean to do this today, but because you say we have sane voices in India and across political lines, we don't have to depend on certain other individuals. Can I just say, the Congress party itself was very uncomfortable of those sane voices.
No, I am not.
Voices like Shashi Tharoor from your party.
No.
No, they were opposition to him in party meetings. No. Shashi Tharoor had to come out just yesterday to say, I'm not a spokesperson of the Congress party, I'm speaking like an Indian.
I think media has blown it out of the proportion. The day the government started to have a terror, unleashed a military attack on the Pakistan, the terrorist attacks at Pakistan, both the leader of opposition and Mallikarjun Kharge ji both said we are with government unequivocally and without any if and buts. So, there has been instances, this is Congress, but Congress will definitely ask political questions to the present dispensation. There's a lot to answer for them to answer.
No, 1 second. I'm going to press you a little bit more, but in a good way. Congress party was asking questions of the BJP, fine enough. Congress party, can you deny, was uncomfortable with the support that the likes of that Shashi Tharoor were displaying to the government and the operation. They were uncomfortable with that. I know that for a fact. I've spoken to congressmen and women. They were uncomfortable. They were uncomfortable with the fact that he's speaking like, quote unquote, the spokesperson of the government and not of the Congress party.
Every Indian is a spokesperson of the government. Government has to answer the questions on security labs. Government has to answer questions on why they are not taking actions against Vijay Shah and the MP Deputy CM who has made obnoxious comments on the army. We will ask government questions, but no one is uncomfortable in our rank for Shashi Tharoor. We value Dr. Tharoor, his intelligent judgment, and nobody holds this, this competence to talk on global policy as Dr. Tharoor has, and we have seen him debunking and absolutely shattering Pakistan myths on all the international channels that he appeared. And we are
happy with that. You're happy with that.
He leading the delegation. We are happy to.
Okay, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, please come in on this. That this is long due, and really not the first time that any Indian government is doing this. I read out examples of this that have been done under Congress governments as well.
No, we welcome if the Congress stand changes, but the issue is they also have to answer about what at the global level or if the Pakistan have been quoting their statement of some of the leaders since the Operation Sindoor happened. But there are, surely we accept that there are sane voices, and therefore that today we are seeing that the government has come out with an outreach even for the oppositions. They were saying that we are not being briefed. Without their briefing from the government, how can they go and talk to the international forums? The government has been briefing. Regular press conferences by the army and the secretary of the spokesperson of the MEA were taking place. But they also have to be very clear about what their certain leaders, even today there have been certain MLAs from the Congress who are still questioning, from the opposition, from India Alliance, are questioning that this Operation Sindhu didn't happen. The terrorist hideouts or terrorist centers were not destroyed. We want proof. Still today, there are certain MLAs and MPs. They have to rein that. That is very important, that at this juncture, when we are expecting the global countries and global leaders to stand with India and our actions against the terrorist activity, some of our opposition parties and leaders, even from senior leaders from Congress, have been questioning about these things. So this is very important. From since the Pulwama happened, Siddharamaiah, then Robert Vadra, they have been giving certain statements which were being quoted by Pakistan. So they have to be careful. But we welcome some of the sane voices, and sure, this delegation of outreach, where opposition is also part, surely will be a big game, a big event at the global level and Indian level, and we welcome all standing with the on the national
this
issues.
is precisely the thing, because the likes of Shashi Tharoor and others were pointing about the fact that, okay, even if, let's say, Donald Trump has tweeted something, Pakistan is saying something, we don't need to put all of our focus on that, Pooja. But, there was an effort from the Congress party to say, no, we want an answer on Donald Trump. No, we want an answer on the mediation. Why is so-and-so talking like that? Why is so-and-so talking like that? But Shashi Tharoor, the diplomat, understood that there's obviously things that have, not been communicated properly by the Americans in this case. That shouldn't take away from where we stand. And hopefully the Congress party will also come to the realization that, yes, domestic politics aside, there was no need to try and pin the government on certain issues.
And they should clearly come out, even top leader from Mr. Kharge and Rahul Gandhi, they should come out and support what stand Shashi Tharoor ji and other sane voices in the Congress have taken. So at least now, they should clearly come out with the statement that we support Indian government, not only from words, but deeds and everything.
Okay, Pooja, that question was for Pooja. Yes, Pooja and Mr. Gopal Krishnan, yes.
Shivani, this is not some random person or some Tom, Dick and Harry commenting about India-Pakistan relations that have been in crux since 1947. And that's where we have always maintained a stand that we'll not allow any third-party interventions. Donald Trump just announced a ceasefire, and not once, twice, thrice, 4 times he went and said कि मैंने तो settlement करवा दी दोनों देश. He was taking the prime ministers out on a dinner date.
अब तो उसने वापस कर लिया. So now who is at fault? You should now accept.
The position. Let me speak, Mr. Gopal.
You were amplifying Trump's statement and not what our prime minister said.
Global forum. And that's why it's very important. As we said, we have never questioned military effort. We have never questioned.
No, that's not true. That's not true, but I don't want to go down that road. When you questioned Balakot, when you questioned proof dikhao, when you asked for proof, it was all questioning forces only, because it was the forces who came out and announced those operations. But anyways, I don't want to derail this debate by going down that road. That's past. That's past. Let's forget that. Let's also accept, Mr. Krishna, that in this case, soon after the Pahalgam attack, the Congress party was indeed very much standing with the government. Yes, Pooja, finish yourself.
So when I'm saying we stand with the government, we stand on the matters of national security. And today I actually came and decided I'll not talk any politics here. But as BJP spokesperson, I really want to know what action have they taken on their ministers, making obnoxious comments, pathetic and absolutely devastating comments on Colonel Sophia Qureshi or हमारी army नतमस्तक हो जाती है मोदी जी के सामने. I really didn't want to bring it.
I can repeat all that happened in Operation Sindoor. Even Pakistan is accepting the losses that their military assets had, their terrorist centers have had.
Any political figure, army goes down to the motherland of India, and so does all of us. So you cannot just make such comments. You cannot insult a decorated army officer.
Well, statements of these kinds have been made by all kinds. Let's not bring that here today. But I do want to go across to Rajiv Dogra. Rajiv Dogra, what is the impact, do you think, a parliamentarian or a politician delegation can make, apart from the diplomacy that anyways works behind the scenes?
Well, I think number one is a reflection of what the nation is saying, and like in every previous crisis, the nation is standing together, except maybe for an odd voice or two and except for the film stars. Otherwise, whether it's a villager or a urban voice, whether it's the media or a politician or let's say a civil servant, all are united on this issue. There might be political differences, but that's a separate thing. That's par for the course. A delegation of this type is the voice of India. That is point number one. Second, a composite delegation representing diversity of democratic opinion is a message by itself. Third, such a delegation is always necessary in times of crisis because Pakistan is aggressively spreading disinformation even as we speak. Its influencers abroad, its ISI, its friends abroad are all on an overdrive. So that has to be countered, and that can only be countered if we take our sane voices, effective voices, and voices that can relate to the audiences there, whether they are opinion makers, media, or politicians. So I think it's been done in the past with good effect. As you mentioned, Mr. Vajpayee's delegation to Geneva and other delegations too. And once again, I'm quite confident that these delegations, which are planned to be sent abroad, will do an equally effective job.
Swaran Singh, what is it that India can do more or new that it hasn't done already? Because that question is on top of our minds. I mean, we've been saying the same things, we've been doing the same things. There's no lack of proof against Pakistan.
Let's assume that the worst in this episode is over. And now India has to focus on soft balancing the whole disinformation narrative that comes from the neighboring country, and therefore controlling and managing narrative would require showcasing the broad basing of India's policy, India's narrative, India's strategy. And in that sense, such delegations of parliamentarians from across party lines going and engaging with major partners of India is something which is very important, because terrorism has to be fought at various levels. At the level of military response, which Prime Minister has clarified, any terror attack would be now seen as act of war. Nuclear blackmail will not work, and godfathers of terrorism will also be considered terrorists. It's a clear articulation of India's policy, but now again engaging different countries at different levels. In that sense, not just broad basing India's narrative, but also taking along, co-opting a whole lot of other party leaders and showcasing that party which is ruling today has confidence that they can go and speak on India's behalf in several other international platforms, gives a collective narrative which makes it perhaps far more effective and trustworthy in that sense. And particularly today with emerging India, fifth largest economy and so on, largest population country, world today expects India to contribute to global narratives, not just of its own problems of terrorism, but how terrorism has to be tackled at global level. And I dare say last 2 decades have seen quite a disarray in that consensus in fighting against terrorism. And you have now regimes in Syria and Afghanistan which are kind of an aberration if you're looking at how to fight terrorism. And so India's responsibilities again in responding to global expectations, from listening to what India wants to collectively stand for and say, also mean that India doesn't have to simply stop on India-Pakistan border, has to take that issue around the world. You remember how global war on terrorism narrative was built by United States post 9/11, and India as an emerging power has a similar, take now to do and take forward to this whole build narrative, not just isolating Pakistan and ensuring that Pakistan is seen in that light as a breeding ground of terrorism, but also how India can showcase what it can do to dealing with global terrorism as such. And in that sense, taking all party leadership along is something which is very significant. It has happened before, but today I think our challenges are very different because of the whole onslaught of information from social media, legacy media, television, radio, and so on. So much onslaught means that disinformation can become a very significant challenge in-house sanity has to be communicated as to what India stands for. And in that sense, these cross-party delegations, I think, is an important step. But they have to deal with very different challenges today than, let's say, it happened earlier in earlier decades.
Yes.
There were very limited
Can I
challenges
just
then.
say, disinformation, in the fog of war, I can understand when India and Pakistan was, sending out competing narratives on who's hitting where, who has taken more damage, etc. That's very different. What we're dealing with is the West's incapability or insistence to not recognize that India and Pakistan are not the same. So that's not so much about disinformation. They have all the information available. It's more geopolitical reasons, and I think we have to find a way to break that wall down. David Vance is also with me. He sits in the UK, kind of sees it from the British perspective as well. So David Vance, you've already acknowledged India's initiative in Operation Sindoor, both the necessity of the operation and its success. But in the aftermath, countries like the US especially have reverted to their old habit of hyphenating India and Pakistan. This is something we strongly object to, because there cannot be any comparison or equivalence between the two countries. Why do you think this keeps happening?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's very unfortunate to see the United States in particular doing that, because the point is that there is no equivalence between India and Pakistan. As I frequently pointed out, Pakistan is a failed state. It's a rogue state. It's an epicenter of terror indeed. So for the US not to realise that it should stand with India and support India as it deals with a very difficult situation on its borders. It's disappointing that the US doesn't do that. The reason I think this happens, and it is notable, is that I think that Pakistan might not be very good at many things, but one thing it's good at is propaganda, and it's very effective at having its propagandists in different media organizations around the West in particular, and they kind of then put out this message that, as you say, hyphenates India and Pakistan, when that could not be further from the truth.
Again, you call it Pakistani propaganda, and Pakistan, I see that Pakistan has also been used consistently as a counterweight to India, particularly as a rising global power. I find it hard to believe that these countries are unaware of what Pakistan is truly doing. They have all the information, they know the reality. So do you think it's more that they use Pakistan as a counterweight to India?
Well, that's a very good point as well. And obviously the Chinese influence on Pakistan is an important geopolitical factor as well. So they must be aware of that. But it doesn't matter. I mean, whether they're aware of it or not, it doesn't change the fundamental fact that Pakistan is a rogue state. It's a nuclear-armed rogue state. And so it's in the interest of the entire world, not just India, that Pakistan be dealt with. It needs to be totally denuclearized for starters, and it does need to be hollowed out from within in terms of the destruction of its terrorist infrastructure as well, which is obviously part of Operation Sindoor was about, at partly achieving that, which is good. And so the West, in my view, has made a big mistake in not instantly realizing that it should stand with India. Instead, it plays these games, and I don't see the point, because who benefits from sustaining the failed state of Pakistan exactly? China probably does. Maybe Turkey does. I don't know. But the rest of the world, we don't benefit in any way. So that's why Prime Minister Modi's actions were the right actions. And I was particularly disappointed in the United States in the response from my namesake, J.D. Vance, and from Marco Rubio and President Trump as well. They should have got on board with Prime Minister Modi. They failed in that, and that's a big mistake, and they need to learn from it.
Pooja, what do you think the Indians can do differently in ensuring that the world gets this message? Because I'm sure you also understand the frustration that this government or previous governments have had vis-a-vis Pakistan.
I think, Shivani, when it comes to our military briefings, I'll appreciate government at this point that it has been brilliant. We have been provided with, precision targets, photos and everything. But what we see in the Western Front, it's been complete whitewashing of the terror state. You're hyphenating India and Pakistan. You're saying Pakistan has every right to protect its terror activities, and we see through you. We see through your nefarious attempt to, paint us in the same light. Nobody has come up. Most of the countries don't have come up and criticized Pakistan, named Pakistan for the Pahalgam terror attack, and that's where we need the multi-party democracy, multi-party delegations to go and show to the world. And it did work in 2008. FATF did put Pakistan in the grey list, for all its terror funding activities. So that's why we cannot we know that the IMF bailout would be actually invested to nurture the terror infrastructure in Pakistan, and we don't want that. We don't want more money to be pulled into Pakistan.
What do you think the government didn't do right? The government's been saying all the things that it needs to say.
No, I don't think government actually handled this information warfare. As one of my fellow co-panelists was saying, we are fighting it at many levels. Militarily, we were brilliant. Strategically, we were very good. But when it comes to, we didn't expect this onslaught of military disinformation warfare. We actually took a backseat. We thought everyone knows that Pakistan is a terror state. Pakistan funded the terror activities. The military leaders, the highest military leaders were attending the funeral rites of the noted terrorists, and we thought this would be, this would close the book on how Pakistan is operating terror from its own land. But this didn't work out. The way global support has emerged, the way we have been left out in the World Global Forum, and that's where we need these voices to go and counter in their land, show them the proof. Not just military proof, but the strategic proof that Pakistan has been doing it for long. And this is
they know it. I keep coming back to this. It's not like they don't know it. I mean, US of all country knows what Pakistan is capable of. But Gopal Krishna Agarwal, I'll allow you to respond. Maybe you didn't see it coming. Maybe you also thought that, India is so much better morally and otherwise from Pakistan that everyone would just would not equate us. But the government didn't see it coming, that the world doesn't care so much.
Shivani, we have to understand that the global response at this point of time, after Pahalgam terrorist attack, unfortunate attack, the global support that India had for its action is exemplary. We have to understand this narrative of some of the countries vis-a-vis Pakistan and India is not new. It had been going on for long, but the response to the terrorist attack have seen a marked difference. And the doctrine of dealing with terrorism this time under Modi ji is a marked difference. You see, he has clearly the first important thing that after almost 77 years of independence, almost such a long period, first time this Indus Valley Water Treaty has been suspended. That's very important. Why we continue to go for that treaty? We have made a change. The policy about any act of terrorism will be considered as an act of war clearly has been stated. The response and the terror epicenter and their supporters will be completely destroyed. That has been very clearly said. We will not take the bluff of the nuclear state from the Pakistan. So these are the marked difference. This is the way you deal with the terrorist rogue state. You cannot just
fair enough. Fair enough. No, I get your point.
This time we have seen a marked difference, and another step is now in that direction. At the global narrative also, even at the US president statements also, Indian government has clarified that we are not, it's our decision.
And there will be no mediation. It will be bilateral, any conversation with Pakistan.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. But international bodies, I want to focus on them as well. And David Vance, I'm bringing you in one more time. IMF issued its loan on the eve of Pakistan sending out a drone attack against India. We know the frustrations with the UNSC. It doesn't even allow global terrorists to be designated global terrorists. Surely these bodies are under test now.
Oh, I absolutely think so. But I also think, and you've made the point there, that the Chinese influence on some of these international bodies is it may not be obvious, but it's tangible. And I think that also influences them. I mean, as you say, extending a loan facility to Pakistan, it's almost surreal that could happen. And the only reason that could happen is if there were bad actors involved who understood exactly what the situation was and still wanted to make sure that Pakistan got the money. Pakistan should be defunded, it should be denuclearized, and it should be the terrorist infrastructure removed. That's what needs to happen. I mean, it's so obvious. I mean, I felt that Operation Sindoor was overdue. It was very good that it happened, and I welcome it. And as I say, I find it so disappointing that the West in particular has not realized the importance of what Prime Minister Modi is trying to do, and India is trying to achieve.
Rajiv Dogra, then the real question is also about China then, isn't it? It is not so much about what Pakistan is doing. It is the fact that it has backing from countries like China, from a NATO ally like Turkey. How do we counteract their influence?
Well, firstly, I must say I agree with your guest from UK, Mr. Vance. He has been very forthright and very clear in supporting India. And that is the kind of voice we look forward to. He also was equally forthright in talking about China. But I must add that look at Mr. Trump. He says one thing in the morning, goes on a tangent in the evening. Sometimes he talks about democracy, but then he receives the head of the Syrian government, who was a declared terrorist according to USA, with a $10 million bounty on his head. So what USA does in terms of support to terrorism remains to be seen. What China does in terms of our efforts on making the world community realize the kind of terror fountain that Pakistan is, despite China suffering from terrorism in Pakistan itself. I don't think it's going to be an easy task in international bodies.
Yeah.
China will oppose every Indian move, though there is some hope that Western countries will be able to stand with India's position, despite the unpredictable Mr. Trump, and we may get some little forward movement on exposing Pakistan.
Okay.
But I think that is only part of the issue. The main thing is that we must inform the Western and international opinion, not just Western opinion, about the problem that is Pakistan. And that is why delegations like the all-party delegations are important.
Okay.
They are part and parcel of this larger effort.
Yeah. Swaran Singh, final comment to you as well.
The other thing I want to have,
I think it is important.
One second, sir. One second. Mr. Singh, just one second. The other articulation could well be that we know that the world is only going to accept so far and no more. It's only going to do so far and no more. Ultimately, India has to deal with the Pakistan problem on its own. And that military doctrine has certainly advanced. It is no longer business as usual, and Pakistan also knows that the punitive costs are going to be very high when it comes to any terror attacks in India. So do you think in that, if we should just focus on that, international opinion is frankly a side business?
There is absolutely no doubt when push comes to shove, India will have to ensure its own security by itself. Nobody is confused on that. But this happens to be not in a vacuum. For example, we are mentioning of IMF allowing the second installment just on eve of this tension between India and Pakistan. The fact that this was 24th such help from IMF since 1958, and that builds a global context. And I like the way you said the world doesn't care about it anymore. The West doesn't care about terrorism anymore. Many Western nations today look for a quid pro quo from India as to what will they get in return. Plus, of course, they have their own problems in Ukraine, in Gaza, and so on. And therefore, I think it particularly the onus becomes also on India, not just deal this issue at the bilateral level or at the regional level, but also build the narrative at global level as to how terrorism is a shared global problem and it is urgent to address that problem. And in that context, build a narrative where India's tough actions would be appreciated by global community. The way India articulates its new strategy on how to deal with terrorism should be articulated well and made clear to all these countries,
Yes.
so that these countries understand when India will act tough next time. And that is where I think this multi-party delegations going around the world has to be continuous process. A rising India will have to engage global community in much more robust and expansive fashion, and I think this is part of that activity.
Yes, Mr. Gopal, I have 30 seconds only, please.
Yeah. One thing that, Shivani, we have to understand that the world will not fight our fight against terrorism. We have to give a strong take a strong position against terrorism. If we take strong position as we have done this time, along with our army, all the military forces, armed forces, everything, then only world can amplify that. So the thing is that we have to be very strong in our fight against terrorism, and we have our army and all the government has shown that.
All right. And that
now
is going to be the most
leveraging.
important message that this delegation will take, that if Pakistan acts again, India is going to do this. If they do this, we're going to do this. And I think that is the understanding the global countries should have. I do thank our guests for joining us. In fact, Shashi Tharoor is all set to lead this all-party delegation. It is going to go to the US and then many other countries. He had spoken to me on the day of Operation Sindoor announcement and commended the government. Listen to him how he had backed India and pinned Pakistan on the issue of terror.
But certainly at the same time, in many ways satisfying, because for a lot of us, this was exactly what India needed to do. I think for us, there has been a lot of concern that the Pakistani terrorists cannot be allowed to feel they can come across the border, kill our people, and leave with impunity. They must be made to pay a price for it. And last night, our government, our army, our air force ensured that they would pay that price.
You have, of course, already, expressed your commendation as far as the action is concerned. You've been a distinguished, diplomat yourself. What message do you think, one, it sends to Pakistan? Not just Pakistan-based terror organizations, but Pakistan, the state itself. And we know the kind of state that we're dealing with. And secondly, to the entire world.
Well, I think the message to Pakistan and to the entire world, Pakistan, you're right, is a very sharp message. You can't do this and think you can get away with it. We will take action. We will make sure that you pay a price. And as you know, we chose to actually attack within Pakistan proper. Muridke is near Bahawalpur, and that's something which is inside, well past the international border. But everyone has known for many years that it's the headquarters of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. And for us to finally destroy the facility there was, I think, a very significant and strong message. But the broader message to the world is that it was a calibrated and careful attack, Shivani. If you look at this carefully, what did we do? We struck at night, 1:05 to 1:30 a.m., when there are no civilians likely to be wandering about the streets. We were trying to minimize and indeed avoid, as far as possible, any collateral damage. We destroyed facilities, infrastructure, buildings. We weren't there to kill people, unlike the Pakistani terrorists. Second, we made sure that we did this in such a way that we were careful to avoid striking Pakistani military installations and government installations. Not because we believe the military is not complicit, of course they are. They're the elements in the military who guide, motivate, finance, equip, train, and direct these terrorists. But because we wanted to signal to the world that we are not seeing this as the opening salvo of a protracted war. We are seeing this as a one-off retaliation which the world can understand, and I hope the world will sympathize with.
Now, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh visited the Bhuj Air Force Station in Gujarat today, another one of the Air Force bases that Pakistan tried to attack but failed. During his visit, the Defence Minister interacted with the air warriors and reviewed security situation. This visit follows his recent trip to Jammu and Kashmir, where he addressed army personnel at Badami Bagh cantonment in Srinagar. He hailed Operation Sindoor and how a new red line, symbolic of Sindoor itself, has been drawn against terror.
आपके पराक्रम ने यह दिखा दिया है कि यह वो सिंदूर है, यह वो सिंदूर है जो श्रृंगार का नहीं बल्कि शौर्य का प्रतीक है। यह वह सिंदूर है जो सौंदर्य का नहीं बल्कि संकल्प का प्रतीक है। यह सिंदूर खतरे की वह लाल लकीर है, यह सिंदूर खतरे की वह लाल लकीर है जो भारत ने अब आतंकवाद के माथे पर खींच दी है। मैं इस अवसर पर साथियों आप सभी के साथ साथ देश की जनता का भी आभार प्रकट करता हूं। भारत की जनता ने एकजुटता और समझदारी का परिचय देते हुए आप सभी का, सरकार का, यानी पूरे देश का सहयोग किया है। मैं कह सकता हूं कि भारत का हर नागरिक इसमें सिपाही की तरह भागीदार था।
On May 7, India launched those deep strikes inside Pakistan, attacking 9 terror launch pads belonging to the dreaded terrorist groups like Lashkar, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizbul Mujahideen. Before that, India had already taken diplomatic steps like putting Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. And then, because Pakistan hit back and tried to attack our air bases, it gave India an opportunity to completely pummel them and establish our superiority. Therefore, India has managed to achieve all of its military objectives and more. Objective of hitting at terror camps, objective of also taking diplomatic action, and of course the objectives of teaching Pakistan military the lesson that it better not mess with us. Let's also take a look at how Rajnath Singh, Defence Minister, talked about the time that India took in hitting out at length and breadth of Pakistan. It took barely 23 minutes for India to conduct this entire strike, in which it managed to hit as many as 11 air bases, completely jamming, bypassing the Pakistan-Chinese air defence systems, and in time, often not enough to complete your breakfast.
यह कहना गलत नहीं होगा, जितनी देर में लोग नाश्ता पानी निपटाते हैं उतनी देर में आपने दुश्मनों को निपटा दिया। आपने दुश्मनों की जमीन पर जाकर आपने मिसाइलें गिराई है। उसकी गूंज केवल भारत की सीमाओं तक ही सीमित नहीं रही है, बल्कि सारी दुनिया ने सुना है मेरे दोस्तों, सारी दुनिया ने सुना है। और वास्तव में वह गूंज सिर्फ मिसाइल्स की ही नहीं थी, वह गूंज थी आपके शौर्य की और भारत के सेना के जवानों के पराक्रम की।
India struck the length and breadth of Pakistan in a never-before-seen precise campaign. At least 11 air bases struck with just 23 minutes, including high-security bases like the Noor Khan Air Base in Chaklala and Mushaf Air Base in Sargodha. From there to Jacobabad, Jamshoro, Sindh, Arifwala and more. All the length and breadth of Pakistan was taken care of in just 23 minutes. Now, the India-made BrahMos missile was used for the very first time in an active conflict during Operation Sindoor against Pakistan. Defence Minister praised the impact of the missile and how even Pakistan will be forced to acknowledge its power.
ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल की ताकत को तो पाकिस्तान ने खुद स्वीकार कर लिया है। हमारे देश में एक कहावत काफी पुरानी है और वह है दिन में तारे दिखना। भारत में बनी ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल ने पाकिस्तान को रात के अंधेरे में दिन का उजाला दिखा दिया है।
The BrahMos is one of the most versatile and powerful missiles in the world, enhancing India's defence capabilities significantly. Let's take you through the history of this potent weapon, a long-range ramjet supersonic cruise missile. Ramjets are efficient at supersonic speeds, typically between Mach 2 and Mach 4. Supersonic missiles are the ones that can travel at speeds greater than Mach 1. Its versatility is amongst the best in the world. It can be launched from ships, air, land and submarines. It is a joint venture between the Indian DRDO and the Russian Federation's NPO Mashinostroyenia, together formed the BrahMos airspace. And the name BrahMos is a combination of the names of the two rivers of these countries, the Brahmaputra of India and the Moskva of Russia. Initially, due to international agreements, the range of the BrahMos was only about 290 kilometers. But after India joined the Missile Technology Control Regime, the range was extended to 800 kilometers. This is, of course, from the center or the heart of India, which is Delhi. But imagine its impact and range from the outer posts in India as well. Now, BrahMos has 4 variants. First, the ship variant was launched in 2001. Then came the land version in 2004. The submarine test was done for the first time in 2013. And finally, by 2017, India also had the air launch version. Now, 2 new versions of the BrahMos are being worked upon. First is the BrahMos NG or next generation, which will be smaller and lighter, making it suitable for a wider range of platforms. It will continue to be supersonic, but have a smaller range of 300 kilometers. This is expected to be launched anytime now, in fact, certainly by 2026. Then the much anticipated BrahMos 2, which will be the hypersonic missile, that is Mach 7. This will significantly increase BrahMos' strike capabilities. It will also have enhanced guidance systems for better accuracy and targeting of the missile, which is already, mind you, very, very good. Now, how does the BrahMos compare to other similar category missiles? Let's take a quick check. In speed, the BrahMos is significantly faster than both the Scalp EG and the Neptune, making it harder to intercept. While its speed is in Mach 3 range, which is around 3,700 kilometers per hour, others fall behind. In fact, the Scalp EG is also known as the Storm Shadow. In the UK, it is manufactured by the MBDA Systems, a European multinational developer. The Neptune missile is developed and manufactured by Luke Design Bureau in Ukraine. Moving on, BrahMos' range is also better than the other 2. A longer range compared to both Neptune and Scalp. Scalp is at just about 600. The Neptune, of course, is much, much lesser at 280. BrahMos is also the most versatile. Like I said, it can be launched now from multiple platforms. Scalp, EG and Neptune, though, are more limited. Scalp mostly an aircraft one and Neptune from the land, but the BrahMos from ships, so that means the sea, water, submarines, of course, aircrafts, land and all of its other systems as well. The submarine technology is particularly what makes it extremely good, and that also brings us to its warhead capabilities. The warhead capacity for BrahMos is amongst the best, including nuclear heads capability. The Scalp EG uses the 450 kg Broach missile, which is specially made to go into deep bunkers and eliminate them. The Neptune only has a payload of about 150 kgs. The BrahMos, on the other hand, can carry about 200 to 300 kilograms and also carry nuclear-capable heads. Now, Rajnath Singh also hailed the Make in India program in the defense sector. Not only have indigenous systems stood the test of battle now and emerged much better than others, India has also showcased its capabilities as a defense exporter. Listen.
कुछ साल पहले हम दुनिया से हथियार खरीदते थे, आज हम खुद बना रहे हैं। बहुत सारे हथियार, कुछ लेते भी हैं, आर्टिलरी सिस्टम्स, राडार सिस्टम्स, मिसाइल शील्ड्स, ड्रोन्स और काउंटर ड्रोन्स जैसे साजो सामान आज हम भारत में ही मैन्युफैक्चर कर रहे हैं। हम इंपोर्टर से एक्सपोर्टर बन रहे हैं और यह केवल शुरुआत भी है, केवल शुरुआत भर है।
From being one of the largest importers of defense equipment, India still pretty much imports a lot of its defense equipment, but now also exporting more and more. India has definitely come a long way. For over a decade now, the sector has taken remarkable strides towards achieving self-reliance. India's defense exports have increased 34-fold from 686 crore rupees in the last decade to 23,622 crore rupees in 2024-25. The Modi government has set an ambitious target of increasing these defense exports to 50,000 crore rupees by 2029. India's diverse export portfolio includes BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, artillery guns, radars, Akash air defense missiles, Pinaka rockets, armored vehicles, bulletproof jackets, Chetak helicopters, fast interceptor boats and lightweight torpedoes, amongst others. Apart from these, made in Bihar boots are now part of the Russian Army's gear, highlighting India's high manufacturing standards. India now exports defense equipment to over 100 countries, with USA, France and Armenia emerging as the top buyers in 2023-24. 65% of defense equipment is now manufactured domestically, a significant shift from the earlier 65 to 70% import dependency, showcasing India's self-reliance. India's defense production reached 1.27 lakh crores in the financial year 2023-24, marking a 174% rise since 2014-15. A robust defense industrial base includes 16 DPSUs, over 430 licensed companies, and approximately 16,000 MSMEs. The private sector plays a crucial role as well, contributing to 21% of the total defense production, fostering innovation and efficiency. The world is in awe of India's Brahmastra, the BrahMos that I mentioned, and this is also playing a huge role in India's strike against Pakistan and possibly for the world now, because India has already inked a $375 million deal with Philippines for the BrahMos in 2022. A $700 million contract with Vietnam is also expected to be finalized soon. And apart from this, negotiations are underway with Indonesia, UAE, Malaysia for further BrahMos deals. You would be surprised to know that Indian ships, in fact, are our largest exports. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, between 2000 and 2023, Indian ships were the most attractive defense commodity, accounting for 61% of all of India's defense exports. This is followed by aircrafts at 20%, sensors at 14%, vehicles, armored vehicles at 2.8%, and artillery at 1.1%. Let's also break down exactly who buys from us. Between 2000 and 2023, Myanmar had remained the largest importer of Indian weapons, accounting for 31% of India's exports. Sri Lanka followed at 19%, Mauritius at 12%, Seychelles at 9%, while other countries like Nepal, Armenia, Vietnam, Maldives, Ecuador, Afghanistan and Mozambique are other Indian importers of Indian defense. Finally, I leave you with this warning from Rajnath Singh to Pakistan. He said today, and this is the message that we leave you with, picture abhi baki hai. Thanks a lot for watching.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ है। जो कुछ भी हुआ है वह सिर्फ एक ट्रेलर मात्र था। अब जब समय आएगा, जब भी सही समय आएगा, तो हम पूरी पिक्चर भी दुनिया को दिखाएंगे। हमने पाकिस्तान को बिहेवियर के आधार पर अभी प्रोबेशन पर रखा हुआ है। यदि उसका बिहेवियर सुधरता है तब तो ठीक, और यदि बिहेवियर में फिर से गड़बड़ी आती है तो उसको कड़े से कड़ा दंड दिया जाएगा।
Co-powered by. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Situation in Balochistan seems to be spiraling out of control. There's a major crackdown by the Pakistani army is what we're learning. Internet and electricity have been shut down. There are new counter-insurgency operations that have started. This after the Pakistani army had to face the wrath of the Indian army, the attacks on Pakistani military bases by Indian side. Operation Sindoor has all rattled Pakistani army, which is now prompting them to target Baloch activists, Baloch leaders in Balochistan. Top Baloch sources have now told CNN News 18 that Pakistan military, after its defeat from India in Operation Sindoor, is escalating its excesses, is shifting focus from the eastern border to Balochistan now. These are the same tactics that we had seen in the past as well. This was done right after the 1999 Kargil war, post Balakot in 2019. After India's airstrikes, we had seen how the Pakistani army, in an attempt to redeem itself, had shifted its focus, tried to hit back at unarmed activists, at civilians in Balochistan. Remember, enforced disappearances in Balochistan, Army's excesses in Balochistan have been making headlines for decades together. Now it looks like the Pakistani army is repeating that particular pattern after its loss, after the kind of defeat it had to face after Operation Sindoor by India. We are getting you more voices from Balochistan to give us more details of what exactly is transpiring there, what the situation looks like. But for long, the Balochi people have been standing up against the civilian government in Pakistan, as well as the military establishment. The Pakistani military has been accused of excesses in Balochistan, of enforced disappearances as well. Now it looks like to try and redeem itself from what happened after Operation Sindoor, Pakistani army is shifting its focus back to Balochistan. Anand, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details on this. Anand, what more can you tell us? What exactly is happening in Balochistan?
Well, Manoj Kumar Gupta getting us these assessments, even as there are many Baloch leaders who are turning towards Bharat and say that there is a Bharat-Baloch connection and that Bharat should openly support any movement by the Baloch to break free from what the Baloch claim to be forced occupancy of their lands, their territory, their minerals, their resources by the Pakistani army since 1948. The Baloch struggle is a long one, nearly 7 decades now. But now, right now, the immediate assessment is that the Pakistani army is now going to turn on to the Baloch and to try and mount a massive, what they would call a counter-insurgency move to break hell upon and unleash wrath upon the people of Balochistan. To try and somewhere gloss over the humiliation that they have faced because of the decimation that Pakistan has faced at the hands of Bharat. Now, and to try and salvage and divert the attention again. So, if a Pahalgam massacre was a distraction from the Baloch problem and what happened with the Jafar Express issue, now again, because of the decimation of their air bases and also these entire terror tanzeem's headquarters at the hands of Bharat in 90 hours, Pakistan was brought to heel and brought to its knees by the Bharatiya Armed Forces. They will turn towards the Baloch people. Why? There is a history to this. In 1999, post the Kargil conflict, there was unprecedented amount of military barbarism, dehshatgardi by the Wardi, the Pakistani Wardi, on the Baloch people, and that is documented. And that was to try and tide over the humiliation of the Kargil conflict and again to try and say that we are just countering insurgents. Then again in the case of in 2006 when Bukti had died, after that also they tried to blame it on the Baloch groups and once again a huge counter-insurgency was unleashed and people, there are pictures which CNN News 18 has put out in the past where there are helicopters who are actually firing at innocent people on ground. They are using helicopters to fire and kill, mass killings. So genocides in Balochistan is something which anybody who walks into Geneva today and sees the Baloch people are still protesting, but their eyes, their cries have fallen on deaf ears, and that's why they have been turning to Bharat for support, at least diplomatic, and to voice a support for the Baloch people. Again, after 2006, post the Jabbar top strikes by Bharat in and around the Balakot region, again there was a huge unleashing of military mayhem on the Baloch people by the Pakistani army. And this is again exactly what many experts are saying, that this could happen with the Baloch people immediately, because Balochistan has been facing a huge amount of civil unrest, and also in the last 1.5 years, the Baloch Liberation Army seems to have been really running the Pakistani army to various corners and running and hiding for cover. They have taken over cities. After what they did with the Jafar Express, the Pakistan military had been shamed nationally and globally. Asim Munir has been heaped shame upon shame by the Baloch and then by Bharat. So now again they are moving the troops to the eastern borders again, from the eastern borders towards the west and into Balochistan. And they believe that there will be another unleashing of hell on the Baloch people, atrocities, mass killings, and trying to wipe out ancient tribes and forcing Baloch to flee towards Afghanistan from the ancient land. So
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ है। जो कुछ भी हुआ वो सिर्फ एक ट्रेलर मात्र था। जब भी सही समय आएगा तो हम पूरी पिक्चर भी दुनिया को दिखाएंगे। भारत में बनी ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल ने पाकिस्तान को रात के अंधेरे में दिन का उजाला दिखाई। जितनी देर में लोग नाश्ता पानी निपटाते हैं, उतनी देर में आपने दुश्मनों को निपटा दिया। कि नया भारत अब सहन नहीं करता, बल्कि वह पलटकर जवाब देता है।
Namaste, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you for joining us on this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. Viewers, we have our guests in studio. General Pandey is with us. Air Marshal P.K. Srivastava is with us. Ambassador Deepak Gora will be joining us on that empty chair any moment. But this is the visual, this is the image that we would like the world to remember, all of Bharatiya to remember, but more importantly the Pakistanis to remember. कि जितने टाइम में आप लोग नाश्ता करते हैं उतने टाइम में हमने ये करके दिखाया, and twice in 90 hours. Twice in 90 hours, within a span of 25 minutes, decimation was brought upon the Pakistanis, and this is how it was done. First, it was all the terror bases, 9 terror bases, and then it was the 11 military installations, including Pakistani air bases. So this is the entire stretch of Pakistan that was decimated, and they were shown their place. They were shown their place in a span of 90 hours. So this is a picture. Air Marshal, you must be proud every time. Yeah, alright. Hi sir.
Yes, speech.
Hi sir.
What am I doing here? You have two outstanding soldiers.
Oh my God. Sir, you are